You're late. But you can't leave before you've had your morning cup of tea. So you need the tea to cool down quickly. Do you add the milk early and leave it to cool, or do you let it cool for a while and then add milk? It's an interesting question. How could you find out the answer? You'd need to run both sets of conditions, milk in first and milk in later, while measuring the temperature over the course of 20 minutes or so. For the test to be meaningful, you can't change anything else, or you wouldn't be sure if it was the milk that had the effect. You would need to keep everything the same. In this instance, the amount of hot water and milk, the size and type of cup, teaspoon, and tea bag. This kind of experiment is known as a fair test. It's a common type of experiment, or scientific inquiry, that you might find in a science lesson. But this is not the only type of scientific inquiry that you can carry out. A fair test is just one of 5 different types of investigation, and not every scientific question can be solved with a fair test. The science inquiry process will always start with a question. What is it you are hoping to find out? Let's say I want to find out how the phases of the moon change over a month. I can't do a fair test to figure this out, as I'd need to have multiple moons to play with. What are the other 4 types of inquiry that I can choose from? There's identifying and classifying. This is where I increase my understanding by finding common traits and placing things into groups. This is used a lot in biology when classifying animals and plants. I'm only studying one moon though, so this isn't a suitable type of inquiry to try here. There's also pattern seeking. This is where I collect data from experiments or surveys and look for patterns in this data, which will allow me to make conclusions. For example, I could look at the size of a shoal of fish versus the percentage that are eaten by predators. I could possibly make a study of the amount of light reflecting from the moon every night, but this might not tell me much about the actual phases. Then there's good old research. I could use secondary sources to look up information about the phases of the moon. Even if this does not fully answer my query, it could give me additional information to improve my experiment or back up my findings. However, if I want to know exactly what the phases of the moon look like from my location, I will have to perform an experiment myself. Finally, there's observation over time. This type of science inquiry is perfect for this question. I can observe the phases and make notes about what I see every night for a whole month. I could even see if this pattern is repeated the following month. Any scientific question can be answered by one of these lines of inquiry or a combination of them. Often there is no one right answer, but you will find that certain types of scientific inquiry are better suited to some questions than others. And as for the question about the cup of tea, well, our experiment showed that it actually cools quicker if you don't add the milk straight away. It seems that a hot cup of tea loses energy faster than warm tea, so our tip is to add the milk later.